Before we begin creating final textures for our mech, in this lesson and the next several lessons, we're simply going to go over how to use the tools within Painter. So let's begin by understanding how to apply materials to the mesh. Let's lay down some paint strokes on the mech by left-clicking on the mesh. So what's happening right now is we are essentially painting a full material onto the surface. Now it's very important to understand that Painter works in painting full materials, meaning every time you lay a paint stroke down, you're painting all the channels at once. And in this case, since we're using the metal rough workflow, we're painting in the base color, roughness, metallic, height, and normal channels all at the same time. To see this, if I hit the letter C to scroll through the channels, you can see we actually have some information in each of the channels now. Now let's go back to the material mode by hitting M. So when we lay a paint stroke, we want to actually be able to define the type of material that we're putting onto the mesh. Now all of this is controlled in the Properties panel located on the far right. If we scroll to the bottom, we can come up to this red area labeled Material. Now this is where we can control the type of material that we paint with. So let's go ahead and make a red metallic paint. I'll change the base color to red. I'll change the roughness to 0 and up the metallic to a value of 1. And then we can start to paint onto the model. Now as I lay this brush stroke across the model, we painted that material onto the surface. If I want a very rough plastic material that's blue, I can do that as well. So I'll change the base color to blue. I'll up the roughness to 1 and metallic to 0. And then I'll paint onto the mesh. Now let's go through the channels to see what we painted. You can see the values for each of the materials that we painted are shown in the base color, roughness, and metallic channels. Now the cool thing is we can paint some height. So let's go back to our material and boost the height to full strength. Add a brush stroke and roll the light around. I'll change the height to a negative value and we can see a depression into the mesh. Scrolling through the channels, you can see what we've painted. You can also paint while in the solo view. So here I'm just painting in the height channel. Now let's say you don't want to paint all the channels at once. Maybe you only want to paint the base color and the height. We can also do that by disabling some channels. So by default, our channels are all enabled. So if we go to the Properties panel and clicking on the ones that we want to disable, we can turn them off. I'll just disable everything except for the base color and height. Now when I paint, it's only affecting the base color and height channels and ignoring the other ones. If at any point you want to erase your paint, you can go to the toolbar and choose the eraser tool and start erasing your paint. The hotkey is the number 2. To switch back to the paintbrush, you can choose the paintbrush from the toolbar up top or using the hotkey 1. Finally, you'll notice if I try to paint on the legs, you won't be able to. This is because we are on the head texture set currently. Now if I want to begin painting on the leg portion, I'll have to go to the texture sets, choose that leg texture set. Now I can begin painting on the bottom half. So now that we understand how to do some basic painting, we'll move on to the next lesson where we can discuss the layer stack.